Hello there everyone and welcome to Storytime. Today I have a truly incredible story about a remarkable woman, Sarah Forbes Bonetta. I can't wait to tell you this story, so are you ready? Are you comfortable? Well then let's begin. Sarah Forbes Bonetta was born in 1843. She was an Ibado princess of the Yoruba people of West Africa. I'm also Yoruba. She was orphaned during a war with the nearby kingdom of Dahomey and later became the slave of King Geso of Dahomey. Now, the kingdom of Dahomey was an African kingdom now located in the country of Benin, which is also in West Africa. It existed from about 1600 to 1904 until it was defeated by the French Empire and absorbed into the empire. In an unbelievable series of events, Sarah was liberated from slavery by Captain Frederick E. Forbes of the British Royal Navy, and she later became goddaughter to Queen Victoria herself. Now, Sarah's village was in an area that bordered between Benin and Nigeria. Well, modern day Benin and Nigeria. But it was destroyed by the invasion of the Dahomeyans. Her parents were either shot or sold into slavery. I think you'll agree that that was a horrific situation for Sarah to find herself in. She had lost her family and her home, and now was prisoner of a different people who spoke a different language and had different customs to her own. She was all alone and aged only 5, so was not able to fight for herself. The ones who were meant to protect her had been taken away from her. Worse even than this, she had only been saved to be sacrificed in a ritual. I can't imagine how she must have felt if she was aware of the fate that was intended for her. Now, Captain Forbes arrived on the HMS Bonetta. He was part of the Victorian mission to end the slave trade. When the captain was finally able to meet with the king, who he was sent to negotiate with, he talked about his displeasure with the slave trade. The king listened to the captain as he was representing Queen Victoria, who was also a monarch that he saw himself as equal to. Now, Captain Forbes managed to create a deal with the king to buy palm oil and bring peace to the region. This deal was sealed when the captain interrupted a violent ritual involving those captured at Sarah's village. The victims included Sarah, who was clearly royal from the tribal markings on her face. The captain pointed out that Queen Victoria would never harm a child and could not respect a king who would do such a thing. So the king announced at the end of the ritual that the girl, known as Omoba Aina, would be spared and given as a gift from King Geso to Queen Victoria. Forbes took Sarah aboard the HMS Bonetta after her baptism at the missionary, where she was christened Sarah Forbes Bonetta and dressed in English clothes. He took her to England, and the sailors aboard the ship were impressed with how quickly she learned English. Now, Captain Forbes had to present her to the Queen. She was, after all, a gift for her. I imagine that was something Sarah didn't quite know or understand as she arrived in Gravesend in late July of 1850. Captain Forbes took her to his home not far from Windsor Castle. She was only 7 years old when she was summoned to meet Queen Victoria, the ruler of the great British Empire. The Queen was also impressed by her command of English and listened to her as she told stories of her history and what she could remember. Now, the Queen was so moved by Sarah's story that she offered to pay for her expenses so the Forbes family could raise her. While she was finding her new life safe and exciting, it had become clear she did not always have the strength to do everything that she wanted. She kept coming down with colds, so it was decided to return her back to Africa, as that might suit her health better, which is a typically wrong way of thinking in these times. Yet, Sarah's life was once again full of great upheaval. Having just got to England, she now had to leave, and not to return to her native land, but to arrive in another land in West Africa, Sierra Leone. Now, Sierra Leone was a place where freed African people were able to rebuild their lives. But not only was she leaving what had just become familiar to her, she was going to a different country, again with a different culture and a different language. She arrived in Freetown in 1851 after another journey at sea lasting 33 days. Can you imagine being on a boat for an entire month? Now, in Freetown, she was a celebrity. The little girl who the Queen herself had taken an interest in. The school she attended in Freetown was run by the same missionary group that ran the place where she had been baptized. The child that attended along with Sarah's were dressed in English outfits and learned English rhymes and hymns. Sarah had her own room on account of being a celebrity and was given a picture of the Queen to hang up. She would talk about her visits to Windsor Castle and having tea with the royal children. Can't imagine how glamorous and exciting her experience would have been in England. And her fellow classmates and teachers would have thought the same. Sarah was treated like gentry, despite not having a personal fortune of her own. There in Freetown, she seemed to settle, and the Queen continued to provide for her care while she was at the school. Sarah even threw a tea party in honour of the Queen's birthday a year after her arrival. Yet, in 1855, arrangements were made for Sarah to return to England. We believe the Queen must have received such a convincing letter from Sarah of her unhappiness in Sierra Leone that she agreed for her to return back to England. She boarded a steamship and left the country that had become her home for 4 years. But I can imagine that she was glad to be returning back to England. At this point, she was now 12 years old and on another adventure. She was placed with a family, the Shones, in Palm Cottage, Gillingham, which is in Kent. She quickly became a part of this family and settled down once more. While her health was still delicate, she still had many private visits from the Queen and seemed to settle into life with the Shones well. Her friendships with the royal children resulted in her attending Princess Victoria's wedding to Prince Frederick William of Prussia in 1858. The Queen ordered and paid for several new dresses for her. It must have been so exciting. Sarah had a marriage proposal, an offer of marriage. Now, this man's name was James Pinson Labulo Davis, and he was 31 years old, a naval officer and a rich businessman, and he was the one who proposed to Sarah. Now, the Queen was very happy as she wanted to see Sarah settled. Initially, Sarah was not interested. I mean, she was just 17 years old. And though in those times that was a normal time for a girl to get married, I don't think Sarah felt that way or saw her life going that way. So, to help convince Sarah, the Queen had her moved away from home to stay in Brighton. Now, I don't know about you, but that seems a very cruel thing to do, to tear away a woman from the family and home that she knows. Now, Sarah wrote to Mrs. Phipps, a lady who took charge of her care on behalf of the Queen, about the pressure she was receiving to marry James. She wrote, "Others would say he is a good man, and though you don't care about him now, you will soon learn to love him. That I believe I never would do." Mrs. Phipps responded, "I know that the generality of people would say he is rich and your marrying him would make you independent. And I say, am I to barter my peace of mind for money? No, never." Sounds like a very strong-willed and independent woman. However, the isolation in Brighton was crushing for Sarah. So in March of 1862, she agreed to marry Mr. Davies. She was given away by Captain Forbes, the brother of the man who had first rescued her. And after her marriage, she went on to teach at the female institution in Sierra Leone. The possibility of being the head teacher was interrupted when she had her first child, who she named after Queen Victoria, who also became the godmother of the child. In all, Sarah had 3 children: Victoria Davis, who was born in 1863, Arthur Davis, who was born in 1871, and Stella Davis, who was born in 1873. What a life she had, full of ups and downs and of many journeys around this world. Thank you for listening to Sarah's story. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.